Inside the Birds is back. What's going on, everybody? Geoff Mosher and Adam Caplan here. And I don't want to sound like a broken record, Adam, but we're going to be talking about a lot of wide receivers. Now, on our last podcast, we talked about the upper tier wide receivers. We went through guys we think are going to fall anywhere between that 1 to 25, 30, 40 range. And then, of course, on this podcast, because the position is so deep, we're going to take a look at the tier 4 or 5 wide receivers who could go later in the draft. But as you've mentioned a lot, Adam, these are important wide receivers to focus on because both of us kind of get the feeling that the Eagles are coming out of this draft with at least 2 and maybe even more wide receivers than just 2.
Yeah, and Geoff, we should mention, I know that not everyone is an Eagles fan listening, so we got Raider fans listening. It's funny. You can mention 15 teams that need to come out of this draft with a receiver. It just so happens potentially the best receiver draft in NFL history in terms of depth has to be a draft where so many teams need receivers. Yes, the Eagles absolutely are going to have to come out of this draft with 2. They're going to get 2, if not 3, but they're going to get 2. There's no way they come out without 2.
Right.
Raiders have 2 picks. They're going to draft a receiver most likely in the first round.
Mm-hmm. I think there's going to be a couple of teams.
Packers need speed opposite the great Devontae Adams.
Yes, they do.
The Jets need depth at receiver. They need receivers. Colts, yes, absolutely need receivers. Redskins, who are hot on Amari Cooper, they're going to sign him. So, yeah, I mean, it's just that's it, man. That's it.
All right. Well, that's why we've got a lot of guys to go through. I want to get into a few things first for our listeners to let them know. A couple of things that they should keep their eyes out for as of right now. And we're recording this Wednesday night. It drops Thursday, 6 a.m., April, 9th? Thursday the 9th. We are expected to have Jalen Reagor, one of those top wide receiver prospects that we spoke about. He's going to come on and do an interview with us, and we're going to put that on ITB TV on our YouTube channel, of course, Inside the Birds YouTube. So we're expecting to talk to him Thursday night. You, me, and him will chew it up a little bit. You know, his dad obviously played for the Eagles, Monte Reagor. So I'll really look forward to that interview and putting that up on our YouTube page. Of course, we'll tweet it out. We'll do everything on social media. So make sure you're following Inside the Birds on YouTube and, of course, on Twitter at Inside Birds. We mentioned last podcast, we're going to have the great Greg Cassell on about a week before the draft to kind of preview all the prospects, ones Eagles are interested in, and also some of the great first rounders that people want to know about.
Yeah, Greg will be on our
April 16th show. That'll be Thursday the 16th. We'll drop that one. Hopefully, as Geoff said, Reagor should be coming on with us. And then we might have another surprise here. I'd like to get Brandon Ayuk, but we'll have to see.
We'll work on that.
Yeah, we'll work on that. And then, look, they're just – Geoff, I mean, when the draft is the 23rd. So 2 weeks as we drop this. We're technically less than 2 weeks before the draft. Right. Wow, this thing is going quickly. This receiver group, Geoff, is so fascinating. And the one thing that I learned about this, the second half of this, this is our second receiver show. There's some really good football players who are just not going to go as early because it's so deep and there are a variety of different shapes and sizes. Teams are going to get some steals, man. I'm telling you, there's some kids that are going to go a little bit later, and maybe they're not going to be as good a rookie season, particularly, Geoff, because of the issue that we're having as a country. Right. That's a real problem, by the way. The couple of receiver coaches told me. Sure. That's why I think veterans are going to have to play early, because if you don't have access to the players until July or August, and that's being hopeful, by the way. We don't know when everyone's going to be back. If they don't have an offseason, how can you play them right away?
No, I know. We talked about that last podcast. Not having a rookie camp, now it becomes about how well adjusted are these rookies. Look at Miles Sanders last year. We thought he would start off slow because he missed pretty much all of the OTAs from hamstring injuries, but then by week 2, he was catching 30-yard passes. So the guys who are just naturally gifted and have great FBI football intelligence might acclimate a lot easier than the guys who maybe struggle in that department. So it'll be definitely something worth monitoring as we go forward. And then when sports finally resumes, we have a lot of new listeners, Adam. I've noticed people reaching out to us on Twitter, right, saying that they love the podcast and they've just kind of caught up to it. So I want to let everybody know who doesn't already know that in the off season, we do 2 podcasts a week. They drop Monday and Thursday at 6 a.m. So usually we did that obviously for the commute. Not a lot of people commuting now, but if you are and if you're on the front lines, whether in healthcare or law enforcement or whatever you're doing, delivering, helping people out, doing your job. We really appreciate everything you're doing right now.
Thank God. That's a great point you make for the people of the East Coast or Central Time Zone. You can get our show, if you're in
Central, 5 a.m. Eastern, 5 a.m. Central. If you're out on the West Coast, and you have to go in for, obviously if you work in the medical profession, you're in hospitals overnight, and look, it's the least we can do. And we're happy to do it. We're on every Monday through Thursday. We drop each show 6 a.m. Eastern, Geoff, and we're going to do that until the fall. I'm assuming we're going to have football in the fall. We certainly, Geoff, we don't know. And that's the thing that we're learning here.
Yes. There's a big uncertainty, but I do know, Adam, that people can continue to get our content and our coverage, not just on the podcast, not just on our YouTube page, but also our website, InsideTheBirds.com. You have a mailbag story up right now where you answered questions for people who used hashtag AskITB either on Twitter or on Apple Podcasts, which we really appreciate. We want to encourage people to continue to give us 5-star reviews on whatever platform that they use, especially Apple. And when you ask a question and give us a 5-star review, you have a much better chance of getting your question answered. We try to get to every single one in general. We just find the questions coming in corners that are more recognizable. So if you continue to ask us questions on the Apple Podcast review site, we will definitely get involved in answering that. And I know this week you and I will both probably be answering listener questions. And of course, Andrew DeCecco has some good stuff on the website right now, breaking down the All-22 on Nickel Roby Coleman and some of the other guys that the Eagles signed this offseason or traded for, like
great
Slay
stuff. Yeah, Andrew
and Hargrave.
He's a
Really good, young, talented writer. Andrew is.
Yeah, doing a podcast with Seth Joyner, too.
Is he? Wow. Andrew's a stud. He's really talented.
Yes.
And we couldn't be happier. I met Andrew on the road. In fact, might have been East West Shrine. Andrew would know better.
That's where it was, yeah.
Yeah, he's awesome. Yeah, he's really gifted. Follow him on Twitter.
Yeah, at DeCecco NFL for those who need to know.
Got it. DICECCO, is that correct?
DICECCO. ADICC. I'll try it again. ADICECCO NFL on Twitter.
Andrew DeCecco. That is it. Okay, Andrew DeCecco. Got it. Okay.
Right.
What else? What other thing we have?
Well, you're on Twitter at Caplan NFL, and I'm on Twitter at Geoff Mosher NFL GEO for everybody who's just kind of hopped aboard lately. All right. Before we get in, Adam, to the newer wide receivers, the tier 4 and 5 guys that we are going to discuss, some of those guys you just mentioned will be steals because in other drafts they would have gone higher. I want to circle back real quick just to a few of the guys we talked about in the last pod because we have kind of updated information.
Yes. Oh, wow. Great point.
And you wrote about Laviska Shenault in particular. He's the kind of guy who I think falls under that category of is probably not going to go in the first round, but has first round talent. It's just that the medicals, and he just recently underwent a core muscle surgery, but that's the kind of guy who could be a steal for somebody.
Yeah, well, it's funny. So let me
open my notes here, Geoff. So a coach that I talked to on Wednesday afternoon said that this guy said he told his GM, he's like, if he's there for us in the second, we got to take him. Obviously, I can't go into where this pick would be, but I'm just telling you, this kid is probably the most gifted of this draft in terms of everything. When Greg Cosell, and Greg, I'm just telling you, and you'll know this, if you follow his work, he doesn't get overly excited about anything or anybody.
That's good.
It is, but I have to tell you, he was on our show last week on John Hanson and I. We've hosted the show for this will be 17 years. I've never heard him so excited about a receiver. It was just like, I was laughing and I was kind of had to put my hand over my mouth. I never heard him like this.
Wow.
And then he goes like this. He goes, now, Greg, see what happens. Sometimes people overdo it with Greg when they quote him. He said, he's not Terrell Owens, but folks, he's got Terrell Owens traits.
Mm-hmm.
Again, he's not Owens, but he goes, he's so big and he moves well for his size. He's thick and you use him in a variety of ways. He goes, this kid, all the coaches there hasn't been a coach that I've talked to or an executive that doesn't love this kid as a talent.
Oh, I totally agree with you. The only thing that I was told was that the medicals and just like, I don't think he has any character issues, but he played at Colorado, not necessarily the most powerful school out there, like the Alabamas of the world or the Clemsons. And he's been hurt a lot and he just had a surgery. So,
right. So you have to get over that. Correct. Right.
Yeah, absolutely. Anybody else that we spoke about the other night who has, top 50 potential that you in particular have an update on?
Yeah, as much as I like KJ Hamler, as one coach told me this week that he had double-digit drops based on tapes. I can't argue against it because this is factual. So I said to this coach, I said, "Hey, let me ask you a question. Could this be talk? Could this curb?" He goes, "You know what? Some of them, because the passes weren't quite accurate, you have to, as someone who grades tape, you have to put on somebody, but a majority were on the player, and that's not acceptable. Some of it, concentration, you could coach it and you could show them it, but when there's so many, you get concerned. Now, incredibly explosive for a small guy. This and what I'm hearing from just about everyone is pretty much slot only. He can play Z off the ball, and you got to move him. But if he's going to make it long term, because he's just not big enough, Deshaun Jackson, by the way, he's played everywhere in his career. He's played Z, he's played X. So and Y slot. He's run out of. He's not a slot receiver, but he's played inside.
Certainly has, yeah.
So you're going to have to, and Hamler, by the way, smaller than Deshaun. You're going to have to move him. I'd be shocked if Hamler goes in the first round. I know people knock me. Oh, well, you said a month and a half ago. Yeah, that was a month and a half ago, folks.
Right.
I get information every day, and then I start forming it into a broad opinion. This is the way the league thinks about him, and more often than not, that I'm right because it's people who actually work in the National Football League who know how it works. Someone said to me today because the guy was laughing at me. He's like, "Dude, only 4 receivers are going to the first round." He goes, "I think you're crazy with putting 8 guys in there." I said, "No, I didn't say 8, but I said these guys are good enough to go in the first." He goes, "It doesn't work that way. You got to understand." I'm like, "Yeah, you're right. I know, but."
Yeah, because there's going to be 6 offensive tackles. There's going to be 4 quarterbacks.
So this coach said today, he goes, "I think 4 are going to go. Could more go?" He goes, "Yeah." He goes, "Yeah, but you got to understand." And I know Bill Polian told me this. He goes, "Typically in every draft, there's only 15 graded first round picks. There are 32 picks, so someone else has got to go."
Right.
As Geoff just said, offensive linemen, particularly tackles, have a lot of value. Corners have a lot of value. You don't see safety. Rarely do you see a safety in the first round unless the guy's special. You're going to see, obviously quarterbacks are going to go. So receiver, unless the guy is very few flaws, they're not. You have to be super. Look at Stephon Diggs. Okay, 5th round pick. He's probably one of the top 12 best NFL receivers. He just got traded for a first and more. He was a 5th round pick. Now he had some character concerns coming out of Maryland, I'm told.
Right.
But it's hard to see Hamler go in the first round before you move on, because it's as quick twitch as he is. You gotta accept. There's some stuff you got to clean up about him.
Yeah.
But you do.
I keep being told you need to have a quarterback who has really, really good downfield accuracy to be able to get the ball in his hands where you can use his explosive the most. And not every team. Listen, there are teams we talk about with Carson Wentz. He has downfield accuracy, but he could also be very sporadic on any given day. So you really want to pair him with a guy who's got that really good, strong arm and can put it right in his hands.
Yeah, and it's a shame, as we talk with the Eagles here for a sec, it's just a shame. I know talking to the Eagles, they thought that, and they're right. I think they would have been right. What Deshaun did in the first game with the 2 touchdowns, 50-yard plus 50, like they thought that this offense was the best they ever had. They could have been. Even now, that was with a healthy Alshon, healthy Deshaun Jackson, those 2 tight ends, and Miles Sanders, who's he's gifted as hell. But they never got to see it because by the time Miles got going, Deshaun was long gone.
Right.
It's a shame. So I would say this: if Hamler's there in their second round, I could see the Eagles taking him because his grade is his real grade is, as coaches tell me, is in the 40s. You never say never. Someone could reach. Take him late first, and not saying he won't be good because the kid's gifted, but you have to understand what he is and what he's not.
Right. And I'll say this before we move on to the tier 4 or 5 guys. I tend to think that more than 4 are going to go in the first round. And my theory is
okay, who do you think? Go ahead.
Well, I don't even know who the name is going to be, Adam. It's just my feeling is this, that of course CeeDee Lamb, Judy, and Ruggs are going to go high, and then Jefferson will probably go in the first round. So that's 4 right there. But then once you start getting to the bottom of the first round and you see teams like Minnesota or Miami, or not Miami, more of the teams that are kind of usually good, like New Orleans is usually good, the Patriots are usually good, the Ravens are usually good, Seattle, they can be a little bit more judicious. These are teams that need wide receivers, and they're going to recognize that they have an opportunity to get a really, really good wide receiver and pair with a really, really good quarterback, like Green Bay at 30th. 31, San Francisco, 32, Kansas City. Not that Kansas City needs any more wide receivers, but my point is, I feel like 1 or 2 will probably go there in the last 6 or 7 picks of the first round because these teams know they have great quarterbacks that can capitalize on this excellent wide receiver talent. That's
right. For instance, so the guys who
Geoff makes a great point because I think I wrote for our InsideTheBirds.com website about it was in our mailbag that on Shenault. The reason why I think he could go late one is because, as Geoff just said, the teams that know they're going to be around for a while, that they're not going to get fired for taking him if he doesn't work out because of his injury history. The ones that like John Schneider is a big risk taker, and that's why he's great at what he does. He takes calculated risks. Most of them work out, and that's no, I'm not saying they're going to take him, but as Geoff just said, Seattle, the Niners who could they just got to the Super Bowl now. He's not the pure speed guy that they would be looking for opposite Deebo Samuel, but this kid's a playmaker, and Kyle Shannon's an unbelievable play caller. So Patriots who need playmakers who obviously last year was terrible. So that's really a great point. So other than that, Ayuk. Here's what I know about Ayuk.
Mm-hmm.
Every coach, every personnel guy that I've talked to, they like him or love him. However, none of them are really to tell me that he's the 4th receiver. They won't, like, I'll go, hey, who do you think's the 4th? Well, if Shenault didn't have the injuries, he's my 4th guy. How about Ayuk? I like him, but I think he goes later. Well, if you think he's that good,
they're scared by the 1 year. That's clearly it. I mean, that's
and he's new to the position. He only played it 4 years, 2 years at junior college and 2 years in 2 years at ASU and 1 year of production.
Yeah,
I get it. That's a great point you make, but man, if you think the kid is special, put your balls on the line, man. I don't know the agent. I just was so excited talking to a bunch of people on Monday and Tuesday. I was like, holy shit, this kid's good.
Yeah, I think I said on the last pod, I asked a guy, an AFC scout personnel guy, college guy, who's been doing it for a long time. I said, outside of those names that you keep hearing in the first round, who's the guy that most excites you? And he said Ayuk. So, I mean, Ayuk. Sorry, I'm not going to get this thing right. Ayuk, he said. So I agree with you. There's that sense of excitement about him. And yet there's this reluctance, though, to want to take him in the first round because every personnel man you ever talk to, Adam, wants to see guys do it for more than a year. Or remember Miles Sanders? It was the same issue for him last year. He was this highly touted athlete coming out of college, but he had to sit behind Saquon Barkley for so many years. So he goes into the second round because people just weren't sure based on 1 year if he was going to transition the way they wanted.
I got one more thing on Ayuk. Okay, yeah. So one coach
told me, and I don't know what. No, I must have talked to 12 people about Ayuk. Only one guy mentioned it. He said, if you study the tape closely, and he said you could probably see it on the TV copy because all they have to do is track the football. He goes, he stopped counting how many times that Ayuk had to wait for the ball to come down. Like people will tell you he's by far the best runner for the catch receiver. He goes, think about this. Think about how he goes, you add that to what I just told you about he had to wait for the ball too long. He might have had 15 touchdowns. He goes, he had to wait too long. I was like, wow, okay. I said, you know what? I said, I'll look at that. I'll look at the TV copy. If I can see it, shit, I'll look at it. But I thought that was very interesting. I'll be, and by the way, Denzel Mims. And when this kid, here's the thing on Mims before we move on to our next tier. He is a down the line guy. Now someone could take him in the back of one because like you said, the teams that could take a little bit of a risk or willing to be patient is a better term.
Yes. This
kid, when he puts weight on, he needs to put 15 pounds on. One coach told me he only weighed 207 at the combine, 6'2" and 7/8, just under 6'3", but only 207. This kid is gifted. He loved his effort at the Senior Bowl. Love the kid, but he said he couldn't give him a first round grade because he's not ready to be that guy. But he's like, and he goes, year 3, year 1 is totally about putting weight on and bringing him in as a 4th receiver. Year 3, he's your starting X, and this kid might be the 3rd best. This is a guy who told me he thought he might be the number 3 receiver in this draft for 3 years. But you got to be patient.
Incredible.
Yeah, well,
I'm excited about the potential of this class.
We'll see.
I really am.
Listen. We'll see, folks. Understand something. It's never about what the guy looks like year 1. Be patient. Right. And by the way, it's even worse this year because they're not going to have an off season. No one in the National Football League I've spoken to, in the 24 people I've spoken to last week, thinks there's going to be an off season.
I feel bad for these rookie quarterbacks coming in too, because usually they get thrown into the fire.
Right. Well, let's say they're back in July. Well, you can't put them on the field, and all you can have is Skype meetings or Zoom meetings. So this is going to be, they're going to have to hit the ground running. That's if they're lucky. They might not have any offseason. They might might not even have them back till September, Geoff.
No, I know. So, I mean, the longer this thing lasts, the harder it's going to be for rookies to make any kind of noise in year 1.
Right.
All right, Adam, let me tell our listeners about our friends at DraftKings. No sports, no problem. DraftKings Sportsbook has an endless amount of casino games to play from the comfort and safety of your home. And right now, all first-time casino players on DraftKings Sportsbook can get up to $200 to play risk-free for the first 24 hours after downloading and signing up. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app right now and find the casino games in the top navigation bar to start playing. Games, you want games? Choose from slots, blackjack, roulette, live dealer games, and more. DraftKings is a legal, safe, and securer than secure gaming app. You can deposit and withdraw your money at your convenience. Plus, DraftKings has new promotions every day, so be sure to check the app daily. So download DraftKings Sportsbook app now and use the promo code ITB to play up to $200 of casino games risk-free. That's promo code ITB to play up to $200 risk-free for your first 24 hours of casino play on DraftKings Sportsbook. Must be 21 or older, New Jersey only. Restrictions apply. See DraftKings.com/sportsbook for details. Gambling problem, call 1-800-GAMBLER. All right, the tier 4 wide receivers as we get into it now. This is a pretty interesting mix of names, Adam. I don't even know who you want to start with, but I think of all the names we kind of lumped into tier 4, the one that intrigues me the most, who I feel has the best potential to maybe even bump himself up into the upper tier, is Michael Pittman.
Correct. Every coach that I've talked to likes the kid.
First of all, here's another little tip I got from 2 coaches that were on the field. By far the most engaged receiver at the combine for on-field drills.
Mm-hmm.
I heard his interview on Sirius XM NFL radio. His interview might be the best of, probably top 5 interview that I've heard. And I've worked for the company for 17 years. It's my 17th year of work for Sirius. The kid, and obviously his dad, Michael Pittman, I covered when he was with the Bucs. The kid is like so mature and engaging and funny and smart. And the coaches love him. Now, here's the thing. He's not fast. He's, as one coach told me, he's going to win because he's so strong. 6'4", 223. He ran a 4.52, which, by the way, is very solid for him.
Yeah, especially at that size.
Yeah, exactly. So he's going to go mid-second to early third.
Mm-hmm.
Here's what really helps him go in the second round. He's a four-core special teams player. So if he's not ready to get on the field year 1,
mm-hmm.
he'll be on special teams. That has value. Trust me on that.
Can he be a returner?
No, that was not mentioned to me. But coverage, gunner, whatever you need. But I didn't ask, but I didn't hear returner. I just said
right.
Any coverage.
So he sounds like he's Mac Hollins, except really good.
But really, you know what, Mac showed before he had the awful situation with the surgeries.
Yeah,
I'm told he had both sides done. He just has a setback. I mean, it just didn't work. It was an awful year for the Eagles receivers in 2019. I've never seen anything like it. It's just crazy how bad they were.
It was, yeah.
But the fact of the matter is, Pittman's a really intriguing player. You love that the father played the National Football League. He's grounded. He's a really good kid. But just understand, folks, whatever team drafts him, for those of you who are not Eagle fans, if you're Raider fans or Packer fans, he's not a burner. He's going to win. I know some people brought up Mike Evans. In size he is, but he's not as explosive as Evans.
Right.
But he's smart and he's crafty and he's going to win. Just understand he's not a burner.
Is he – I don't know why we did this last time with T. Higgins, talking about big guys who don't run
Well, with Higgins, Geoff, one thing about Higgins, this is the difference between Pittman and Higgins. Okay, I'm glad you brought this up. Higgins struggled. The one reason, if he doesn't go in the first round, I could tell you exactly why.
Okay.
He can't get off press. He has
That's
trouble.
Shocking for a big guy to not be able to handle press.
He's another guy that one coach told me needs to put 10 pounds on. T. Higgins is 6'3" and 5'8", 216. He used to get up to 225-ish.
Wait, you want him a tight end?
Well, no, but you want him to get stronger physically. Now, of course, over time, when he gets into a weight program with an NFL team, now this coach told me, said you absolutely could teach a guy to get off press. That's not a major issue. But coming in, you look at things that he needs to improve on. Though, is it a weakness for Higgins? Yes, but it could be taught. Sometimes it takes guys, this coach told me, a long time to get it because technique. Guys at the NFL level, and Clemson has had a history of guys not understanding technique and route running.
Right.
There's another coach told me, but they like the kid because he gets everything downfield he catches. No one beats him, but he just needs to get stronger. Now Pittman, he can play X. I asked a personnel guy, I said, hey, are there a lot of X receivers in this draft? He goes, no. He goes, there are a lot of Z's and Y's. He goes, but Pittman could play X because he could win. He'll win on the outside because he's so strong and smart.
Right.
But he said Higgins can, it seems like everyone seems to agree on this. He's just not good with press. One coach said he couldn't find a play where he won against press. We're talking about Higgins now.
Yeah, because nobody plays it in college anymore.
Right.
To be fair, right?
Right.
I mean,
well, it's mostly zone, but when they teams pressed, Higgins couldn't get off of it. So that's something to keep an eye on. But those will be I'm glad you brought Higgins up because we didn't talk about him enough in the last show.
Yeah. Now, mentioning Pittman's ability to play the X is going to confuse some people, right? Because I think people think that X is a pure speed type position, right? And you want your guys. The biggest thing is getting off the press coverage, as you said. And you take a guy like Justin Jefferson. We talked about why is he better in the slot than lining up at the X, even though he ran a 4.4? Because it's not really all about speed. It's your technique, your ability to, when that corner wants to throw his hands into your chest, to be able to redirect it, to be able to, even if you don't have the greatest speed, use your footwork to attack a leverage and get open with either a move or your body. And it sounds like Pittman is experienced in all the other ways to compensate for a lack of elite speed.
Good point. And by the way, getting back to
Jefferson, you know why coaches love Jefferson? He wins.
Mm-hmm.
He wins just about every single time. Now, he's not a natural speed guy. He's a long strider, but he makes up for it with his hands, knows where to go. Coaches love him because I think he was the guy that was a last-minute ad by LSU. He was one of the last guys they added, 2016, whatever year he got there. Love the kids. Jefferson 6'1" and a quarter, 202. He just can't win on the outside. He's 20. I have him 15 to 25. Everyone, their mother has him go to the Eagles. I get it. And by the way, before we move on from Jefferson, and this is not a knock on Greg Ward. He is so much more talented than Greg Ward. Greg Ward's story is awesome. I love the kid.
Oh, of course.
Justin Jefferson, if the Eagles take him, which I think is a very good chance, there you go. You're your slot receiver. He's a dynamic slot receiver. You're going to have him for 8 to 10 years. Still got to get speed on the outside. So the Raiders aren't going to draft Justin Jefferson because the bald-headed kid, the kid who looks like he was 60, Hunter Renfrow,
right?
He's their slot receiver. Yeah, he's really.
He certainly seemed to be at Clemson for 40 years.
Yeah, I know. Well, look at his hairline, but he's a good football player, man.
He is a good football player.
So if you draft Justin Jefferson, you've got to get speed on the outside. So let's get to so we did Pittman. Who's next?
How about Claypool? I got worried at the combine when he blew it up because he was not a guy whose name was called a whole lot during the NCAA season. Now, that a lot of that could have been because of Notre Dame's quarterback play. I know they're going through some things there, but I worry about him. I always worry about the guys who just weren't mentioned a lot throughout the year, but then blow it up at the combine.
All right, here's what I got.
Kevin White. Remember Kevin White?
Yeah, well,
West Virginia.
Here's what happened with Kevin White. Bad system with terrible for receivers.
He also couldn't stay healthy.
Yeah, you're right, from day one. And Kevin White, I think, is out of the league. But yeah, Kevin White's problem is under Dana Holgerson, the former WVU coach, the receivers didn't really run routes. And that's why David Sills hasn't made it. The kid, the Eagles drafted, what's his name? Gibson?
Gibson, yeah.
Yeah, that's why he didn't make it. If you go through the last 5 or 6 years, they just haven't made it. Tavon Austin, obviously, Although I don't know if he coached him there, but
they had Stedman Bailey, who was okay.
Yeah, he got hurt.
Shot.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Let's get back to Claypool. So, okay. Here's what I got from coaches, personnel guys. Super raw. Not buying the Darren Waller comparison that people have made. A lot of draft guys said that.
Mm-hmm.
We're talking about internet guys. I get why they're saying it because he's long and thick. He's probably going to go because of his workout and an upside. Mid to late second is probably the best he could hope for.
Mm-hmm.
Tremendous upside, very raw. Two coaches told me a week ago, and another one this week, that their thinking is he won't play year one. He's just going to have to. He needs to be developed. He's raw, and here's another thing that's a problem: he's not a natural hands catcher. He clamps the ball a little bit. A couple guys told me that. That needs to be worked on. But you love the kid, and he wants it, and he works his ass off.
Mm-hmm.
It's coachable. That's why he's probably going to make it because he cares and it means something to him.
If that's not the epitome of a Notre Dame kid right there,
that's
a lot
good.
of try hard, a lot of effort, great kid, great character.
But he's an athlete. This kid's an athlete, though. He's not just a try hard guy, but I get your point.
Yeah.
You need, folks, whatever he goes, if your team drafts him, you need to be patient because it's probably not, barring a surprise, going to be there year one. He also needs a full offseason. He's not getting one this year. So it would be very surprising to me if he plays a lot because it just doesn't add up, but you never know.
So what do you think? The third round guy, you think?
Probably
fourth?
Third. No, third. I would say third with the upside of second if somebody wants to reach and just bench, not bench him, but just put him in their system and let him work.
Right. The next guy I wanted to talk about would be, and I like this kid. I know he's had some injury issues. Brian Edwards from South Carolina.
Okay, I'm going to read you 3 scouting reports I got. Love him. If not hurt, would go very high. No offseason would go. No offseason for him probably. Would go late 1, early 2 without his injuries. Love the kid. Wish we had more guys like him. Huge hands, catches everything. Tough, talented kid. Zoom interview went great. Animal with his hands, jet sweeps, etc. Very productive. Best of any receiver for this group that you're looking at. Because I mentioned about 7 or 8 of them. This guy, this coach loved him over everyone.
Right. Wait, over everyone
in this tier.
In this tier,
about.
Okay.
Yeah, because I read him the whole list. He goes, it's not even close. He goes,
right.
He goes, you'll love everything about him, but he has so many. He's just injuries he's got to get over, and you have to decide. The GM's got to decide: are you going to let him? Are you going to take a little bit of a risk with his injury history? See, I'm going to try to get a GM to explain to me the injury grades because sometimes, I remember Bill Polian telling me. I asked him. I said, Bill, what player did you ever regret not drafted? Because he said he would never overrule his medical staff, the doctors. He just wouldn't do it. He said if he could go back and do it, he would have overruled them on Gronk. Because Gronk had back surgery in college. That's why he didn't go in the first round.
Right. I think a lot of GMs probably feel that way.
That was the one where he goes, you know what? So what if he didn't have a great first year? He goes,
right.
I'm paraphrasing. This was 5 years ago. But I just remember, and he was pretty emphatic. He goes, I would never do it, but if I could go back and do it, and as you just said, I'm sure a lot of GMs would have done it, but the Patriots were willing to take the risk, and he's probably going to be a Hall of Famer. And by the way, the Patriots just told me that they thought that when they drafted him, he could be a Hall of Famer, and guess what? He almost has to be.
I don't even think it's a probably. I think he's going to be a Hall of Famer.
Yeah, a lot of injuries, but the kid is just a beast. Just imagine, you might have been talking about maybe the NFL, the top tight end in NFL history had he never had the injuries, but because he played like that, he's long, 6'6.5" and 6'7". It's susceptible to getting hurt because he drags guys. But getting back to receiver, Geoff, what else we got?
Well, Howie always likes his Florida Gators, right? And if he can take a Florida wide receiver, even better. The kid who comes to mind who's in this kind of tier for us is Van Jefferson.
Yeah, here's what I got. Great kid, like dad, carries himself well, broken foot, not concerned, will run soon. Should play in NFL for a long time. Polished, just not explosive. Wish he ran faster. Needs to trust himself and not try to be careful. Should go no higher than a third because you trust the kid. You trust the dad who's an NFL receivers coach. He played in the NFL.
Where's he coach? Is he with the Jets?
Yeah, I think so.
He and Hines Ward are both with the Jets?
I think. I have to look it up. He was.
Interesting. Okay. I think he is.
One of the best receivers at the Senior Bowl. Needs to play with a little bit more urgency. Solid guy. Plug and play. Probably your one because he's so smart. You know he's going to get it. Everybody loves him, but he's just not fast enough to go higher than the third round. Worst he'll go is the fourth.
Right. So I wonder how he does with press coverage, and can you play him at the X, or is he more like a slot guy?
It's interesting about the X position. I know people say it's a number one NFL position. Not always. I've seen a lot of Z's. I have asked coaches. Sometimes the number one receiver is the Z.
Look at the New England Patriots. Their number one receiver has been a move YZ, or whatever you want to call it, a slot and a Z in Edelman for a long time now.
Right, or an F. Some teams like call it slot as F. But
right.
yeah. So look, he's just not fast. So if you're talking about the Eagles, now here's the thing, Geoff. When we talk about the Eagles, they don't have for the future. They don't have a 1. They don't have a 2.
Right.
They may have a 3 right now in Ward and Arcega-Whiteside. We just don't know where he's going.
Right. So the overriding point is
I take Jefferson. Hell
yeah. It doesn't matter if the Eagles draft a kid who doesn't have pure speed, because they have needs at the receiver position all around.
Well, here's the thing though. With
they
Philly,
do need to get faster. I'm not trying to say that.
They have to.
Yeah, I just meant
have to get at least one speed guy now.
At least one guy, right?
Now Jefferson, if you want to call him a possession guy, I would live with this. If you and I are running the Eagles, if we get our speed guy in the first or second, I could live with Jefferson in the first. The other is Jefferson, Justin. If we get a speed guy, who I think you could play. If we get Ayuk in the second, now obviously we'd have to. If we get Mims, I'm good, dude. I won't complain. You could. The draft is the rest of it is yours. We'll take Jefferson because he could be our top possession receiver. We'll figure out a way. We'll see on JJ Arcega-Whiteside. He'll contribute clearly, and he'll do more. But for the Eagles, I have no problem with getting a Van Jefferson because you know what you're going to get from him. But I would fire everyone if they don't get someone with speed. I'd be pissed off. I couldn't I remember when Greg Cosell came on our show, right? This is why I've been on the speed kick. Not only from stuff I got from the Eagles, but when Greg Cosell says it's the slowest offense in the National Football League he saw last season, that's all I need. Not that Greg's perfect. Nobody is. No one's giving the answers to the test.
Right.
It happens, but the tape doesn't lie. And when other teams tell me, when defensive coordinators tell me or defensive coaches tell me this offense is embarrassingly slow, I know the way NFL people, I know that how Roseman thinks. There's zero chance that they don't get someone who could run.
Right.
None. It won't happen.
And listen, I said it in the last pod. I still think even before the draft that I wouldn't be surprised if Howie tried to pull something off to get somebody who has some outside perimeter speed. I'm not a Pro Bowl guy because nobody's giving them up at this point, but just there's guys out there that have speed and could be available.
And by the way, Packers, another team. Raiders, another team. I would bet you $100 that if it doesn't happen in the first round for the Raiders, it happens in the second. They're going to get a speed receiver. So the Packers, the Redskins, they need talent. McLaurin's a stud, but they need talent, and that tells you. Ron Rivera gave the answers to the test. Not that we didn't know it. The word was that they wanted Cooper badly. So that tells you kind of where they're going early. So folks, listen. Jeff's right. We may see 7 we may. Here's what I'll tell you. I don't know what the odds are out there, and with all these Bovada.coms and our friends at DraftKings and all these websites. But I'm saying this: there's going to be a minimum of 4. Actually, I'm going to say there's going to be a minimum of 5. I'm going to say there's going to be at least 5, and there might be.
Oh, all right. I'm going to play the game that I love to play with you.
Go ahead. Go.
I'm DraftKings. I'm setting the over/under on wide receivers in the first round at 5.5. What are you going?
Oh, I'm trying not to curse, folks. I said SHIT twice. Sorry. Man, you're putting me on the spot. I'm not there because we're 2 weeks away. I'm a little bit more definitive on stuff now.
I'm not asking you for a final answer. I'm asking you for a right now.
If I had to,
yeah,
I'm going to go with 5. So I'd have to say under.
All right, I would go over because I think it's going to be 6.
Who are your 6? You know 6 yet?
Again, some of the beauty is in the eye of the beholder when you get to the bottom half of the draft there. But I think the top 4 are pretty much set with Ruggs.
You know that Judy, Lamb, Ruggs, Jefferson. Yeah, you just said top 4, right?
Top 4 are set. And then once you get to the bottom of the last 6 or 7 picks, I think Rager, I think somebody could fall in love with Hamler, definitely. I think
Higgins
can sneak in there, and Higgins. Yeah, there's at least 4 and all I need is 2 of those 4 to get taken.
Ayuk, absolutely. Ayuk. By the way, so the people I talked to said they have no concern because it's in season. The sports muscle core surgery recovery is 4 to 6 weeks, and the off season is a little longer because you're not rushing the guy back. Not that teams are rushing them, but they guys will come back where they're clearly not 100% because they just want, players have a tendency to come back earlier than they normally would in the offseason with that surgery, and not be 100%, but you can play through it in the offseason. Here, give him 2 months. So
right,
no one's worried about it. It's good that he had it now because the way that the guys I talked to said he'll be fine early June. I'm like, great. And as they said, there's no offseason anyway, so it doesn't matter.
No, there you go. To round out tier 4, Adam, I'm going to throw a couple of wide receivers at you. And here's the thing about this group that I'm about to throw at you. They are as diverse and versatile as you get. I mean, this is not like when we talk about the first 3 guys in the first round of 4 guys, they all kind of do similar things. You got big guys, you got small guys, you got guys who can run, you got guys who can just create with their body. So, but I like them all. And I think any one of these guys could be really good players in the 3rd round and be a starter too, a year or 2 years into their career. We're talking about Antonio Golden-Gandy from Liberty, Lynn Bowden. I love Lynn Bowden from Kentucky, Gabriel Davis, UCF, and Tyler Johnson from Minnesota. 4 guys there, different range of different skills. And you can say, well, this guy's not very fast, but like Tyler Johnson, not speedy at all.
No,
I watched him tear up Penn State.
Yeah,
I watched him tear up Penn State.
He is a guy that he's Jason Avant type. He's not flashy. He's tough as bleep. He's smart. Jason Avant didn't run well at all in terms of speed, but smart, tough football players like Jason Avant and Tyler Johnson could play in the league for 8 to 10 years.
Yes.
He's a good
help your offense.
Right. He's just not. You have to understand that your coaches always tell me the key to understanding and being a good evaluator is knowing what a guy is and isn't. It's always nice when you grade a guy and he becomes better than you thought he would be. You certainly don't want to miss on the traits, but you have to grade a guy because it's all about projection. It's never certainty. You're trying to be objective about a subjective process.
Mm-hmm.
You're trying to evaluate 20 and 21 years old and 22-year-olds. How you simply, there's no way you're going to know for sure. Like no matter how, especially receiver, Geoff, you know how a lot of these guys struggle early on.
Absolutely. Yeah. Now that's why I'm very intrigued by Bowden because he gives you so many. Listen, he was a quarterback this past year at Kentucky because I guess they had an injury and he had to move from wide receiver, but he's naturally a wide receiver by trade, and he's twitchy. I mean, he's not the fastest guy downfield in the world, but you can use him as a gadget. Like you put him in Doug's offense or Andy Reid's offense or Sean Payton's offense, and you have a lot of potential there to really do something.
Yeah, the term I got for him is he's a down-the-line guy. You're right, he is intriguing, but he's probably going to go later. I always put never say never because you just, things happen. And
yeah, I think he's I'm told 4th rounder who could go 3 by a team that really thinks that they can use him as a gadget.
Right. So you just got to understand what the guy is. Gandy Golden, very intriguing guy. Good Senior Bowl week. He's got a lot of development to make. He's a mid-round pick. You understand he's a Liberty kid, if I'm not mistaken, correct?
Yeah, Liberty.
Right. You understand the lack of competition he went up against. Sometimes it's, as Bill Polian had told me with quarterbacks, he never worried about the competition. That's why I remember when Bill and I were working together at ESPN, he said, look, because I was trying to get intel on Wentz, because I had a pretty good idea the Eagles were going to draft him. I'm like, Bill, how much of a problem is it for a kid who, didn't play against a good level of competition, for a kid that is from, the country, to come into Philly?
Mm-hmm.
He goes, first of all, I never worried. He goes, if you ranked issues for a player, it's like if it was 15, he had it like number 10. He didn't really worry too much about competition.
Right.
He worried about everything else, talent, everything that comes at quarterback. But for this kid, it's just a matter of, now receiver means more because he has to dominate. The way it was explained to me by receivers coaches, when they take guys at small schools, he has to dominate his level of competition. If he doesn't, you don't draft him because you're putting your nuts on the line for a guy who, if he's not special, That's a problem at a low level of college football. That's not good. So, but you know what?
He did dominate. I mean, he had a very good year.
He's big. I mean, he's got ability, but he needs further development. And you just got to be to another one of those. Be patient. It's probably not going to happen overnight.
Right.
If you're patient, it could be by year 3.
Might
be outside year 2 starter. Year 1, I mean, just don't see it. But really interesting kid. But he's big.
A future type of pick.
6'4" even. 223.
Yeah, and by the way, he ran a 4.6 at 223, which is a darn good 40 time.
Yeah, it's not bad. Right, it's not bad. He's just not fast. His vertical was solid at 36.
36.
That's just lower. Yeah, that's it's lower body explosion. He's another one of those guys, mid rounders who that you just be patient with. That's all.
Yeah, absolutely. Gabriel Davis, and we mentioned from UCF.
Oh yeah. I got something on him. Yeah. A couple guys told me doesn't play to his time speed, plays a little bit high, product of a system that's very similar to Baylor. Didn't really run routes. Like the kid personally, guys told me, and he's got really good size. I mean, he's 6'2", 216. Arm length good. 4.54 is a decent, for his size, is decent time. I hate to use this term, but it's true. You hear coaches and execs say not shot in the ass with him. It's a term that coaches and execs use. Weren't excited about him. Just think he's okay. But you know what? We'll see what happens.
All right, we're going to get into the about 3 or 4 more guys that we consider tier 5. But I tell you, because this draft is so deep in wide receiver, Adam, there are a couple names in this last tier that I think, man, in 2 or 3 years, they could really be something in the NFL, and we'll get to them in a second. But right now, I want to pause real quick for a word from our great sponsors. Hey, it's Geoff Mosher. Adam Caplan and I love using Anchor for our Inside the Birds podcast every week. It's so user-friendly, anyone can create their own podcast, and you should too. Just download the Anchor app or go to anchor.fm to get started. Anchor gives you everything you need to start your own podcast from your phone or computer. Its creation tools allow you to record and edit your podcast for a professional sound, and Anchor will distribute your podcast for you to Apple, Spotify, Google Podcasts, and so many other platforms. It can be heard by everyone, just like Inside the Birds. You can also make money from your pod with no minimum listenership. What are you waiting for? Download the Anchor app or go to anchor.fm to create your podcast today. The Earn Your Leisure podcast, hosted by Rashard Bilal and Troy Millings, examines the latest trends in finance. Listen as the duo interviews entrepreneurs from various industries as they break down their business models and share some of their hardships and triumphs that they've experienced along the way. Want to learn about the real estate game? Unclear how the stock market works? They gotcha. Interested in starting a truck company, vending machine business, or investing in the mobile home market? Then check them out as they've got you covered. Earn Your Leisure is a college business class mixed with pop culture. So if you want to become better equipped in business, head over to Spotify or wherever you listen to your favorite podcast and follow the Earn Your Leisure podcast today so you never miss an episode. All right, Adam, let's round this out. There are a couple names here.
Real quick.
Sure.
Do we do Devin Duvernay?
No, that was the name that I was about to throw out there.
Go ahead. Thanks. Yeah, because I
had
wasn't
that
sure.
List. I knew.
I can't remember if we did him the first show or not. That's why.
Right. No. I know you wrote about him on InsideTheBirds.com, so anybody can check out our stories there and find your post about how scouts felt about him. But I wanted to start off with him and a different type of guy in Antonio Gibson, another person that you've got people close to Gibson and you can give a really good detailed report on. But Duvernay is the Texas kid, right? And he's kind of, I think, as you wrote, seen more as a slot receiver, which we've talked about a lot, but potential to be a decent one.
Yes, it's really amazing story. So we had him on NFL Radio with me last week. I requested to have him because his story is amazing. Really next to no production for 3 years. Would have been a late round pick if he got drafted at all. Goes to the slot last season, and he just dominated. He was a plus 65 over the previous year. He had 105 catches. In terms of production, he was plus 65. Tape's good, bad offense. This is part of the scouting report that I got. I have I have like 3 paragraphs on him. Great kid. Tape's good, bad offense, bad QBs. dominant physically in the slot, but he's not a vertical slot.
Right.
Though he ran in a 4.38 or something at the combine. He's just really tough, and he's going to win because he's so strong. He's not your Geoff. He's a very unique slot receiver because you don't see guys in the slot built like this.
Is he Jason Avantish?
I thought about that, but obviously he runs better than Jason. But you know what? It's a good comp in terms of physicality. Jason was, obviously really built well.
Oh yeah.
He's probably a 3rd-round pick.
Mm-hmm.
Coaches love him because he's so smart, interviewed very well, but understand that he's new to the position, but did an incredible job of transferring in 1 year.
Mm-hmm.
He's not a vertical threat. He's not twitchy, but he's tough as bleep.
Yeah.
And
you need to repeat this stat again. Plus 65 from the year before to this year in receptions.
Yeah, that's just remarkable. Yeah, it's just remarkable.
65 more here's
the question I have. What the hell were the coaches doing the year before that?
Yeah, I don't know. Well, maybe it was a quarterback. The switch, a guy likes a guy a little bit more. It's not like Texas was just bleeding with great wide receiver talent.
Yeah, I mean, he's a 3rd. Could he drop out of the 3rd? Sure. Could he go late 2? Sure. I think the median grade from coaches I spoke to with and personnel people, they think see him go to 3, maybe again, could be 2, very low. I mean, at the end of the 2nd, 3rd, pretty solid, or early 4th at the worst. Great kid, good story, and I really enjoyed talking to him because I found out about him at the combine when you and I were together, and I wrote his name down because a couple coaches put me on him, and I totally forgot about him. And I look at my combine notes, I'm like, damn, why did I forget about this guy? So I started looking up his stats. I'm like, this is mind-boggling. I don't understand. Right. Like, how does this happen? Like, what were these coaches doing for the first 3 years? So anyway, that's what I got on him.
All right, let me throw a kid at you who I think is going to be drafted higher than we think.
Okay.
And when you've got this kind of, moves, you've got this quickness, this electricity to you, and you've got these coaches like Doug and Andy Reid and Peyton, and they start to imagine what they can do with this kind of guy. And we talked about him at the combine too, is Antonio Gibson from Memphis.
All right.
Receiver.
All right. Let me, as you're talking, I wasn't expecting, because, here's the thing. Teams I've spoken with, which probably about a dozen about this kid.
Yeah.
They all seem to think he's going to play running back, not receiver. Now, could you line him up in the slot? Absolutely.
Darren Sproles, huh?
Well, he's all jacked up muscle-wise. He's thick as bleep.
Yes, he is.
Really a great kid. Great story. Look, I have a scouting report from a Memphis football source, which is really, really incredible. I think you actually saw it. I showed it to you at the combine. I'm going to need to find it, and I will read. I'm going to give you – I don't want to give it all out here, but I'm going to give you a little bit here, Geoff.
I remember at the combine.
Let me see. No off-the-field issues at all. Very solid football IQ. Will be a four core special teams player. Can be a running back or receiver, but we think probably a running back. Hybrid, H-back, no fathom, just thick as bleep. Kickoff returner, really good at it. Specialty player. NFL guys will love him because of his ability to be coached and to make explosive plays in space. So it's funny.
Yeah, he's going to be a poor man's McCaffrey.
Well, I thought of Kyle Shanahan because Kyle's really good at. You see what he does with Kyle Juszczyk.
Yes.
Or you see with Debo lining up off center and all sorts of stuff. So I'll give you the full scouting report, folks, on our website. But he's a really interesting player. There's no doubt about it.
Yeah, and I just think that when you start to when you can take a guy, right, and you know how coaches think, who you can play at multiple positions. He's a good kid, smart, great FBI, and all four special teams phases. A lot of coaches there are some coaches that put a lot more stock in that than others. That's where I feel like you start to add it up, and I'm like thinking, you know what, he could be a day two. What's it? Well, day two would be what, second round and third round? I don't think it's going to be day two, but maybe early day.
Yeah, I've got 3 or 4 on him, Geoff.
Yeah. It wouldn't. Hey, look, if he's day 2, late 3, that would not shock me at all.
Remember, though, one thing about this kid, because it's got to be a coach or an executive. Well, if they have to be on the same page, these specialty players, Geoff, if you don't have a plan for them, that team will fail. It's just the way it is. I've studied this business. It's when Darren Sproles didn't get it done in with the Chargers. He wasn't bad. He was good. but Sean Payton figured it out. Okay, Sean Payton was the one. Doug Peterson figured it out.
Yeah.
Okay, the guys who have a vision for what the kid could do. Gibson, if he goes to the right team, will be a special football player. If not, he's just going to be just an average guy who doesn't make it.
Right. That's exactly what the point I was trying to make of those coaches who really can envision all the ways
Sean
that
Payton,
he can impact.
Andy Reid. Are you kidding me? That would be
I said, the Andy Reids, the Dougs, and the Paytons of the world.
Josh McDaniels to a certain extent.
Yeah. Kyle Shanahan's a good one. I like that.
Yeah. You know what? Scott Turner had Christian McCaffrey in with his dad in where the hell were they? In Carolina. So now Scott's the play caller with the Redskins. I could see him there just as they have a lot of running backs, but just as a specialty player. But Jeff's right. It's got to be with the guy who gets it. There's nothing worse, and it bothers a bleep out of me, when teams don't have a plan for the player. You'd be shocked. Despite what teams tell you, they're lying. So many teams go, oh, yeah, we know what we're going to do with them. They don't wind up doing it. Something happens.
Absolutely.
Pisses me the hell off.
Let me throw two Big Ten receivers at you, because I think that they're kind of viewed differently. Quintus Cephas from Wisconsin, who I like because I just feel like he's a smart guy, knows how to get open, knows how to do it. I don't know how well he could do it at the pro level without elite speed, but I like Cephas. And Donovan Peoples-Jones from Michigan.
I got that.
I think people loved him after the combine. I was a little surprised to see how much hype he was getting.
According to Michigan football source, this one predicts 3rd or 4th round.
Okay.
It depends on which. It's hard for me to explain this one. It just depends on if he's bringing his A game or not. If he's bringing his A game, he looks like a number 2 NFL receiver. He just needs further development, and you have to be patient with him.
Got to fall into the right hands then.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, that is probably when I look at my file here. I'm looking at my notes in my file here. Let me find him real quick. 6'1" and 5'8". 212, good size.
Good size.
Ran real well. 4 for 8 for his size is really, really good.
Yeah.
Good arm. Wow, he's got good arm length. Yeah. Wow. 33.
That's what I'm saying. Like, you look and you see all the workouts and the measurables, and you wonder, well, I know they had bad quarterback play at Michigan last year. So maybe it's an example of a kid who'll be a lot better in the NFL because he's got all the attributes to be. But that's a projection, and you got to be kind of right on that if you're going to take him higher than the 3rd.
Yeah, Geoff just hit on it. So one thing I really want our listeners to understand, folks, it's all about projection. That's what the NFL is about. That's why when I say year one matters to a certain extent, but it's never about year one. It's about you're hoping 5 and 6 years. You're not projecting, oh, yeah, okay, well, we're signing a 4-year contract, but we only care about year one. No, folks, it doesn't work that way. The teams that think narrowly, or the teams are going to get their whole staff's going to get fired, that they're so desperate. I've used this example before. There was a GM, AJ Smith, who I happen to like. I mean, I thought he wasn't bad at his job, but he got so he got so desperate. I think he signed 20 unrestricted free agents one year. Well, that's a recipe for to get fired because you're just trying to save your job.
Right.
You don't start. Let's say you're a team that needed a lot of receivers. Like you. Let's say it was a GM was in the final year of his deal. He knew he had to win, and his receivers sucked. He would draft 4 receivers. Well, you don't do that. You should never go out. You should never do the wrong thing to win.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the teams that fail and wind up getting fired. It's because they don't follow the process of the way that you win.
Mm-hmm.
And you got to be careful with this stuff. And getting back to the Eagles real quick, I know people get me on about this, about saying the Eagles have to draft a receiver in the first round. Let me just clarify. If they don't, they have to go second round because, folks, when they line up in the fall, whenever the hell that is, we know Deshaun Jackson will be a starting receiver for them. Okay? Right now they have Greg Ward. Mm-hmm. They don't have anyone else you can line up with, right?
No,
Alshon, who the hell knows?
J-Jaw.
We don't know about him yet. Like this offseason, Geoff, this offseason with Aaron Moore, I've heard nothing great things about him.
Mm-hmm.
This offseason with Moorhead and Arcega-Whiteside working together would have been huge.
Right.
He's not going to get it.
Right.
Receiver coaches tell me the biggest jump in a receiver's development is not year 2 to year 3. It's year 1 to year 2.
Mm-hmm.
And he's not going to get an offseason. So it's hard to imagine. I mean, I hate to say this, but it's hard, at least early on, Geoff, It's hard to imagine this early on in the regular season. He's going to be a factor. The only thing that helps him is he knows the offense.
Right. Absolutely.
And that's all he's got going right now.
I mean, could you live with the Eagles drafting wide receiver in the second round and the fourth round and thinking they're all right? I mean, I know.
If they get Ayuk, if they think he can play right away. Now, again, he is a rookie, but if they think he can play right away with Deshaun, Greg Ward would be their slot. They're gonna need to get some. I would like a veteran.
Well, what if they come away with Ayuk and Duvernay? Are you happy with that?
Well, Duvernay would be a better slot, right? Duvernay can only play in the slot.
Sure, Ayuk is going to be an outside.
Ayuk's an outside guy. He's a movement Z. He's really, and he could play X. Someone told me. I want to touch on the Packers because I know we got some Packer listeners, folks.
Mm-hmm.
All you need is someone who could run opposite Devontae Adams, and you know what? You'll figure it out in the slot. Valdez-Scantling just dropped off last season. I don't understand why. Lazard, we know, has been a good story development. Though I know of a team that wanted him, they thought he'd be a tight end, not a receiver. It's pretty amazing how he develops there. But fact of the matter is, Geoff, when you look at it, Devin Funchess doesn't run very well. We know he's more of a tight end.
Right.
Frankly, the way he runs, he's a great kid. And
forgot they had him.
He just doesn't run.
That's the team that scares me if they get Hamler. Because the downfield accuracy Rodgers has.
Oh, great point, man. Yeah.
Oh man,
I would love to see. I would love to see Hamler, Devontae Adams. If one of those big kids like St. Brown, or Valdez-Scantling could just develop with Lazard, that's a heck of a group. Right. But I'll tell you what, I would take Adams and Hamler in the second round. Lazard, who looks like he's got a chance to be a player. They got to get one more guy to develop, just one, and they'll be good.
Just one. All right, last guy I want to leave you with is a guy that I think if he ends up in the right system with the right coach, could be a very good player a couple of years down the road, a very reliable type player. Not going to be a 3-time, 4-time Pro Bowler, but a possession receiver. That's James Prochet from SMU, who catches pretty much everything in sight. He's had 27 touchdowns the last 2 years, Adam.
All right.
I mean, the guy knows how to play position.
This is interesting. So, cannot play outside at our level. This is a direct quote from a coach.
Yeah.
He's a dog, and I mean it in a great way. He is tough as bleep. You'll love the kid. Incredible with contested catches. Not fast or quick. Cannot play it out on the outside at our level. He's going to be in the pro. This guy thinks he's going to be in the pros for 8 to 10 years. You're going to love the kid. But if he could just run a little bit better, we would draft him earlier. But he just doesn't run well enough. Right. But you love the kid. He's tough as bleep.
He's got New England Patriot written all over him.
Yeah, right. You know what? And by the way, for Patriot fans, I know Patriot fans are following us. You guys need speed on the outside. N'Keal Harry, don't get down on him. He had a bad ankle injury. There's nothing you can do about it. He's going to be a starter. You've got Edelman. Belichick knows he's got to add speed. If he gets speed, you guys are going to be fine. And he also needs to do some at tight end.
Who's another team that's just known for kind of taking these middle to late round receivers and have such a good enough culture and system that they flourish there? You could see him playing. I could see him going to like Indianapolis, playing the slot with Phillip Rivers, having a nice career.
What's interesting? Talking to the Colts, they said that they saw Campbell as an inside-outside guy. My sense is, Geoff, although the Eagles, it was really going to be Campbell, Arcega-Whiteside, and I can't remember. There was it might have been Mecole Hardman. I can't remember. I have to find my notes from last year's draft, post-draft. I found it's when I find out who teams were eyeing. But the Eagles were really thought that Campbell was more of a slot guy, or movement Z, where the Colts looked at him as an outside guy who could play slot. We'll see who's right. And Campbell's hurt virtually the entire season, so we're not really sure on him, but he's pretty. Right. A lot of receivers coach like him. But
I just found my spot where he's going to land.
Go ahead.
Pittsburgh Steelers. They always have an eye for receivers, tough receivers.
Is there a better GM who drafts receivers than this guy? Kevin Colbert's unbelievable.
It's not even close.
James Washington, Deontay Johnson. I mean, my God, Juju is a stud.
Put in there. Yeah,
AB. He made the trade for Ryan Switzer.
On and on.
Yeah, it's just ridiculous.
He's been there since the days of Santonio Holmes and even Hines Ward and gosh, who came after Santonio? There was somebody in between. Sanders.
And by the way, I'm going to give you another little nugget. Don't sleep, Pitt Steeler fans, if you're listening. Do not sleep on Deion Kane. Deion Kane, the Colts, this kid tore his ACL May or June of his rookie year or something like that. I mean, I might be wrong. I might have the timeline wrong. It may be training camp. I can't remember. They thought he was going to be a starter for them for years, but unfortunately, he just was never right after it. If he ever gets his knee right, he's going to make that team and be a good backup. So just keep an eye on that kid because he's. I know the way they felt about him before he got hurt. I feel so bad for him. But anyway,
that's all that team needs is another wide receiver weapon that nobody ever heard of to come out and explode.
Yeah, I know. It's just remarkable.
Par for the course.
Yeah, it's just remarkable.
Right.
But that's pretty much it. Like we don't have time to cover 50 receivers, folks. I'm sorry.
Yeah, no, I think that those are the main ones we should all look out for.
And what we're going to do, we're going to update this next week. We'll probably spend 10 minutes on one of the shows or 15 minutes on any updated information on these receivers. But we're going to move to our Monday show is probably going to be corner or safety. And then the next show after that's going to be with Greg Cosell, who we're going to do. We're a lot of Eagles questions because Greg does work for the Eagles website, but and they're telling shows. But we're going to ask him because he knows tape from every team. Folks, if you like, no matter what team you like, that next Thursday show, you're going to be blown away because I already have scripted it. You're going to love this thing. I've known Greg he's the best evaluator I've come into contact with who does not work in the National Football League. It's not even remotely close. His misses, like if he's done 5,000 evaluations, I could count on one hand the ones he missed on.
Well, he should be working for an NFL team then. But
he kind of likes he's just remarkable. He's just his act. Now I'll tell you though, he doesn't know this behind the scenes stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But his tape evaluation, just of what they should project to the next level, is just uncanny. He does get it, and he and I will have some debates. But it's because he and I get different information. He talks to coaches. He's great. He's a great guy, and we'll have him on. That'll be a great show.
Well, I'm looking forward to that. All right. I want to thank our friends at PHLSportsNation.com. Always great affiliates and partners. And obviously, they've also been just enhancing the fan experience with their coverage of all the Philadelphia teams, the Flyers, Sixers, Eagles, Phillies, and doing great podcasts and just keep pumping out the content at a time where we all need it. So thanks again to PHL Sports Nation. Want to wish happy Easter and Passover to all of our listeners to observe the holidays. I know it's a rough time since we're all at home alone, but hopefully you can be with family you can be with, and please do enjoy the holidays. Again, remember to check out Inside the Birds on YouTube because we'll be putting up that interview with Jalen Reagor just as soon as it's done. Going to do it sometime Thursday night. And pretty soon we'll figure out how to do this stuff live for live audiences and maybe get
for the draft. Yeah. You know, we're going to do something special for the draft. Jeff and I are working on it.
We are.
It just logistically, we have to figure it out, just like NFL teams are figuring out for the draft. But it's going to be fun, folks. And stay healthy, please. And be safe. Don't take any risks. I know some people are. One friend of mine was playing tennis the other day with another friend. I was like, dude, you shouldn't be doing that. I was like, okay, you know.
People getting cabin fever, man.
I know, and I'm getting it. By the way, for those of us before we get out of here, you should, though, take walks. I'm sure a lot of people are. The weather was back out east was incredible. It was low 70s in the Philadelphia area, New Jersey area on Wednesday. So take advantage of it, folks. Get out there and be with your family and be safe.
All right. On that, we'll leave it on that. So, as always, we thank you for flying with us inside the bird.
If you're listening to this, you obviously like podcasts, and you probably like music too. On Spotify, you can listen to all of that in one place for free. That's right, you don't need a premium account. On Spotify, you can follow your favorite podcast so you never miss an episode. You can download episodes to listen to offline wherever you are. You can easily share what you're listening to with your friends via Spotify's integrations with social media platforms like Instagram. Spotify has a huge catalog of podcasts on every topic, including the one you're listening to right now. Just search for Inside the Birds on the Spotify app or browse podcasts in the Your Library tab. And follow me, Geoff Mosher, so you never miss an episode of Inside the Birds. Spotify is the world's leading music streaming service, and now it can be your go-to for podcasts too.